look at 11.5, which is over the new diversified workforce. The United States is becoming more diverse in its ethnic, racial, gender, and age makeup, such as more non-whites, more singles, more working parents, etc. While diverse groups of people bring to organizations more and different ways of seeing a problem, diversity can also be an important management challenge. Now we can define diversity as diversity represents all the way people are unlike and alike. The differences and similarities in age, gender, race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, capabilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Diversity is not synonymous with differences. It encompasses both differences and similarities. Diversity expert Lee Gardenswartz and Anita Rowe have identified a diversity wheel. You can see that here in figure 11.3. And the diversity wheel consists of 4 layers of diversity: personality, internal dimensions, external dimensions, and organizational dimensions. Now, personality is defined as the stable physical and mental characteristics responsible for a person's individual identity. The internal dimensions of diversity are those human differences that exert a power, sustained effect throughout every stage of our lives, such as our gender, age, ethnicity, etc. These are referred to as the primary dimensions of diversity because they are not within our control for the most part. Next, we'll look at external dimensions of diversity, which include an element of choice. These are personal characteristics that people acquire, discard, or modify throughout their lives, such as status, religion, income, geographical location, appearance, or personal habits. These dimensions also exert a significant influence on our perceptions, behaviors, and attitudes. Organizational dimensions include management status, union affiliation, seniority, work content, and division of department. Then you can take a look at this slide here, in which shows that trends in diversity in the U.S. workforce during the 21st century include 5 categories on the internal dimension: age, gender, race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, physical and mental abilities, and 1 category on the external dimension, which is education level. Now, in the trend of age, Peter Drucker suggested that the number and proportion of younger people in developed countries is shrinking. This means that there are fewer younger people to drive the economies and help support larger numbers of older people. The median age of the American worker is predicted by reach 42.8 by 2020, up from about 34.3 in 1980. So you can see the workforce is definitely getting older. We look at gender here. Since the 1960s, more women have entered the workforce, and now about 75% of women ages between 25 to 54 are in the current workforce. Although pay discrepancies have improved slightly as of around 2010, women still unfortunately earned only 0.77 or 77 cents to every $1 for a male. Some of the factors holding women back are negative stereotypes, unfortunately, lack of positive mentors, and limited experience in line or general management. By the year around 2050, we're predicting that racial and ethnic minorities are expected to make up about half of the general population. Studies show that minorities experience more perceived discrimination, racism-related stress, and less psychological support than whites did in a study from our book. When we look at sexual orientation, gays and lesbians comprise up to about 6% of the U.S. population. But between a quarter and 2/3 report being discriminated against in their workforce, and homosexual workers report higher levels of stress. Many employers now in the 21st century are offering policies prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation. Alright, next we look at people with differing physical and mental abilities. In this, there's about 1 out of every 6 Americans has some type of physical or mental disability. Now, the Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against the disabled and requires organizations to reasonably accommodate an individual's disability. Now, there are two mismatches between education and the workforce. College graduates may be in jobs for which they are overqualified, and some are underemployed, working at jobs that require less education than what they possess. And high school dropouts and others may not have the literacy skills needed for many of our current jobs. Now, as we've talked about trends in our workforce diversity, we are going to switch over now and talk about how, although some barriers are erected by diverse people themselves, most barriers are put in place by the organization. And these conclude stereotypes and prejudice, fear of reverse discrimination, resistance to diversity program priorities, unsupportive social atmosphere, lack of support for family demands. In the majority of households with children under the age of 18, both parents work, but women still primarily take care of children and domestic chores. And when organizations do not offer flexibility in hours and job responsibilities, these individuals may find it difficult to work evenings or weekends and take overnight business trips. Next, we look at lack of support for career building steps. Organizations may not provide diverse employees with work assignments, informal training, and or helpful mentoring that can help them qualify for positions in senior management. Alright, now we will look at section 11.5, which is over understanding stress and individual behavior. Now, stress is the tension people feel when they are facing or enduring extraordinary demands, constraints, or opportunities and are uncertain about their ability to handle them effectively. The source of stress is called a stressor. Commonly cited causes of work stress include low salaries, lack of opportunities for growth or advancement, too heavy a workload, long hours, and unclear job expectations. Some of these might sound familiar. Workplace stress costs the U.S. economy over $300 billion a year in health care, missed work, and stress reduction treatment. Workplace stress is negatively related to positive emotions, job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and job performance, and positively associated with alcohol and illicit drug use, overeating, and employee turnover. Emotionally, stress is defined as the feelings of being overwhelmed, the perception that events and circumstances have changed or exceeded a person's own ability to cope. Stressors can be hassles, crisis, or strong stressors, such as extremely physical discomfort. Stressors can be both negative and positive. An example, getting divorced is stressful, but so is getting married sometimes. There are 6 sources of stress on the job. You can see that those are demands created by individual differences, individual task demands, individual role demands, group demands, organizational demands, and non-work demands. Now, demands created by individual differences. This is the stress created by genetic or personality characteristics. People with type A behavior pattern are involved in chronic, determined struggle to accomplish more in less time. This personality type has been associated with increased performance, but also with high blood pressure and heart disease. Next, we look at individual task demands. It's the stress created by the job itself. Some occupations are more stressful than others. Low-level jobs can be more stressful than high-level jobs because employees often have less control over their lives and less work satisfaction. Individual role demands. It's the stress created by others' expectations of you. Roles are sets of behaviors that people expect of occupants of a position. Role overload occurs when others' expectations exceeds one's ability. Role conflict occurs when one feels torn by the different expectations of important people in one's life. And we also talked about role ambiguity, which occurs when others' expectations are unknown. Group demands. This is the stress created by coworkers and managers. When people don't get along, that can be a great stressor. Managers can also create stress for employees. I'm sure you've never experienced that. Organizational demands are the stress created by the environment and culture. The physical environments of some jobs are great sources of stress, such as like coal mining, or if you've ever worked in a kind of a dirty, hot forge. Even the pace for information technology adds to stress. Non-work demands. These are the stresses created by forces outside the organization. The stresses outside one's work life can affect their work performance. People with lower incomes, education level, and work status are particularly apt to have higher stress. Talk about the consequences of stress. Positive stress is constructive and can energize you, increasing your effort, your creativity, and your overall work performance. Negative stress, however, is destructive, resulting in a poor quality of work, dissatisfaction, human errors, absenteeism, and unfortunately turnover. There are physiological signs to look for as symptoms of stress. Lesser signs are sweaty palms, restlessness, backaches, headaches, upset stomach, and nausea. Maybe you've experienced these before going to work. More serious signs are hypertension and heart attacks. When we look at psychological symptoms of stress, these are psychological signs include boredom, irritability, nervousness, anger, anxiety, hostility, and depression. Behavioral signs include sleeplessness, changes in eating habits, and increased smoking, alcohol, or drug abuse. Over time, stress may lead to burnout. Burnout is a state of mind which is emotional, mental, and even physical exhaustion. Reduced productivity is the greatest consequence of negative stress on the organization. Overstressed employees call in sick, they miss their deadlines that have been set, they start taking longer lunch breaks, and show indifference to their performance. Let's look at reducing stress in our organization. General organizational strategies for reducing unhealthy stressors. Perhaps you could roll out employee assistance programs that are aimed at helping employees cope with stress, family and marital status, or marital issues, etc. Recommend a holistic wellness approach which focuses on self-responsibility, nutritional awareness, relaxation techniques, physical fitness, and environmental awareness. You could create a supportive organizational climate. Keep the organizational environments less formal, more impersonal, and more supportive of the employees of the organization. Try to make your jobs interesting. Structure jobs so that they allow employees more freedom. And make career counseling available to help employees know what their career options are and where they are headed. That's it for Chapter 11 over managing individuals and differences in behavior. And like I said, this is the start of our group section over leading. And we'll now go in, after we've talked about a little bit about behavior, we're going to move into motivating employees in the next lesson. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next one.